Renegade Immortal, Chapter 632, The Seed to Break Relations with the All-Seer. Hello, welcome back to my channel, Books with AR. Wu Ma, who was next to Cheng Long, had a crestfallen expression as he whispered, "Shen Hou's body has already been devoured by them. Even his origin soul couldn't escape." Cheng Long revealed a bitter expression. Of the 12 swords, aside from Wei Yan, who died, and Zishu and Haiju, who stayed outside, the remaining 9 members had all followed Greed to this tide abyss. Greed mentioned that after he observed this place for a while, he concluded that the greatest treasure in the demon spirit land was in this tide abyss. Everyone else beside Cheng Long was tempted by Greed's words. They had personally seen countless treasures and exotic things that would make anyone's eyes red get sucked into this demon spirit land at the East Demon Spirit Sea. It could be said that their purpose for coming here, aside from getting the ancient demon's inheritance, was to get these items. Cheng Long had always been calm. Although he felt that something was wrong, he couldn't find a reason to refuse. However, he did make a plan. He didn't have all of them enter together. Instead, he had 3 of them split off into another group, with Chou Nu as the leader, to enter from a different entrance. They kept communicating with each other and even left Zishu and Haiju outside. When they had just entered the tide abyss, everything was very smooth. However, this immediately changed once Greed took some unknown item from a cave. They were suddenly attacked by these mysterious beasts and were trapped here. They were unable to escape and had been trapped here for nearly 100 years. Although 100 years sounds slow, it passed by very quickly for them. They were trapped in this abyss without day or night. The dark fog surrounded them, and if they dared to go out, they would encounter and be attacked by those countless beasts. Junior brother Shen Hou died during an attempt at a forced breakthrough. Even though he used Master's sword energy before he died and killed some beasts, there was simply too many of them. Cheng Long knew that if they gathered all of the sword energies, they wouldn't be able to leave here. "This can't last," Cheng Long said, taking a deep breath, stood up, and looked at Greed. His action immediately caused the other 4 Lou Sword Sect disciples to stand up. They stood in positions that surrounded Greed. Greed's expression was still gloomy as he let out a hoarse laugh. "Fellow nephews, what is the meaning of this?" Cheng Long said in a serious tone, "Senior Greed, Junior wants to know what you obtained in that cave." Greed's eyes revealed a hint of mockery as he said, "You want to know?" With that, he slapped his bag of holding and an oval-shaped egg appeared in his hand. There weren't any signs of life on this egg. It was shrouded with an aura of death. Cheng Long's gaze fell on the egg for a moment. After all this time, he had gained some understanding of Greed. Greed's cultivation was related to death, so it would make sense for Greed to use this to help his cultivation. However, it wasn't certain if this was really what Greed had found. "Little brats, I will ignore your disrespectful tone in consideration of your master's face once. If there is a next time, don't blame me for being ruthless. When I started cultivating, you guys weren't even born. No one who dares to speak to me like this lives." Greed's eyes became cold. Although his voice was soft, in the Lou Sword Sect disciples' ears, it was like roaring thunder. Aside from Cheng Long, everyone else subconsciously backed up. Cheng Long lowered his head, and a hint of killing intent flashed across his eyes. He respectfully said, "Please don't blame us, Senior. Junior was just impatient. After all, we have been trapped here for almost 100 years. Greed closed his eyes and slowly said, "What's the hurry? At most, your master will arrive in 100 years and will rescue you all." Cheng Long sat down in the lotus position and began to ponder. He had already found something strange about Greed. Greed seemed to want to stay here and not leave. There must be a reason for that. While the Lou Sword Sect disciples were having a disagreement with Greed, Wang Lin was rushing towards the tide abyss exit in the Fire Mod country. Wang Lin had already heard about this tide abyss from Yao Shihui. According to Yao Shihui, the token that made even people like the All-Seer's eyes turn red was in the depths of the tide abyss. Wang Lin was also aware that Greed and the disciples of the Lou Sword Sect had mysteriously disappeared 100 years ago and that their whereabouts were unknown. He had a bold guess that Greed's group had also gone to the tide abyss. If Greed's group came out, then it wouldn't be an issue. But if they were still inside, then Wang Lin must properly prepare the exit in the Fire Mod country to cover his bases. He was using greater teleportation, so he moved very fast towards the Tide Abyss exit in the Fire Mod country. While he flew, he couldn't help but recall the scene where he fused with the gray figure during his experience of the ancient demon's inheritance. The gray-robed figure was the one that practiced the celestial slaughter art. At the moment he fused with the gray figure, he felt like he had gained enlightenment, and the number of slaughter energy strands increased from 1 million to 10 million. However, at the instant the slaughter energy reached 10 million, all of the life seams merged together to form a strange symbol. This symbol contained the power of 10 million slaughter energies. At the moment it appeared, it immediately left Wang Lin's control and imprinted between his brow. This symbol penetrated through his body and landed directly on his origin soul and integrated with the origin energy inside his soul. As the two fused, there was a mysterious transformation that immediately cut the connection between Wang Lin's origin soul and his body. Then his origin soul melted within 3 breaths of time and was absorbed by that symbol. Then all the vitality in his body turned into strands of gray gas and was also absorbed by that symbol. Wang Lin watched all of this from a third-person view. After experiencing this firsthand, his eyes revealed thick coldness and monstrous killing intent. He watched his body and origin soul, his everything, get absorbed by the symbol made of 10 million slaughter energies. Then the symbol broke out from his body, just like a parasite that had absorbed all the nutrients from its host's body. Then the symbol flew out with the smell of blood and with a bang turned into a strand of slaughter energy. This was the real slaughter energy. Wang Lin's heart trembled, even though it had been some time, and even though he was flying right now, just recalling that scene made him feel lingering fear. He took a deep breath. The coldness and killing intent in his eyes were about to explode, but he immediately hid them deep inside of him. Wang Lin wasn't able to distinguish whether the scene that occurred in the mysterious space was real or fake. However, with Wang Lin's understanding of the celestial slaughter art, he felt that it was not fake. Wang Lin recalled the mysterious state he was in. It was as if time itself had descended on his body and allowed him to instantly comprehend a spell to its completion. This allowed him to deepen his understanding of the spell. Those gifted by the heavens could even create a spell that belonged to them under this mysterious state. Then, by using countless simulations, they could refine the spell countless times to finally reach a state of near perfection. Sun Yun was someone who did that. Wang Lin's talent changed a lot during these 800 years and was changed even more by his celestial body. Even so, compared to Sun Yun's talent, which even amazed the ancient demon, his talent was far too low. He couldn't create his own spell, but with his own wit and observations, he gained clarity in the shortest time possible in that mysterious space. He was more decisive than Sun Yun and directly fused with the gray-robed figure that was disappearing at the fastest rate. It has to be said that Sun Yun only regained his clarity after a majority of the illusions had disappeared. Wang Lin's decisiveness was an aspect that not something ordinary people could compare to. Even the All-Seer would never have guessed that Wang Lin would be able to obtain the secret of the celestial slaughter art during the ancient demon's inheritance. All-Seer, I once said that if you didn't turn your back on me, I wouldn't turn my back on you. Wang Lin's voice was cold as it echoed across the sky like the wind. The celestial slaughter art is indeed amazing. However, All-Seer, you are simply too vicious. Fortunately, my comprehension was low and was limited to only 1 million strands of slaughter energy. If my comprehension was greater and had achieved 10 million strands of slaughter energy, I'm afraid I would have already become a symbol. I would have become a true strand of slaughter energy and would have been absorbed by you." As Wang Lin flew, he let out a big breath. "The gray-robed All-Seer said back then that he taught me the celestial slaughter art due to my domain. Back then, I didn't think too much about it. Now that I think back to what happened, I'm afraid it was because the All-Seer saw me cultivate the life and death domain back on Suzaku that he decided to accept me as his disciple." Wang Lin closed his eyes, and when he opened them again, his eyes were clear. He teleported and disappeared. "I'm a bit paranoid about this matter, so I can't make an immediate verdict. The All-Seer has been kind to me, and back then it was my own choice to learn the celestial slaughter art, but he did seem to push me. I will have to carefully observe this in the future. However, the All-Seer is simply too powerful. If I don't have the power, I can't let him know I know all of this. As for the celestial slaughter art, I'll need to carefully study it to find an opening." Wang Lin remained at the Tide Abyss exit in the Fire Demon country for several days. He didn't place any powerful restrictions or seals. Instead, he did the opposite and left some simple yet extremely well-hidden restrictions. These restrictions had no offensive power, but they could act as a way of tracking people. If someone came out, the restriction would leave an imprint on them for Wang Lin to find. Unless their cultivation level was extremely high, it would be impossible for people to detect the imprint. After doing all of this, Wang Lin threw away all distractions and flew towards the Water Demon country. He was going to enter the Tide Abyss there and spend all his efforts searching for Zhou Yi. Zhou Yi was his benefactor, so Wang Lin had to save him. Aside from saving Senior Zhou Yi, there is also wealth. As Wang Lin teleported, his eyes lit up. Back then, during the tide phase, he clearly remembered seeing wealth flash by him. Several days later, in the western part of the Water Demon country, at a place that was called the Cloud Sea. This place was covered with clouds most of the year. There was a crack on the ground, deep inside the Cloud Sea, that extended for countless kilometers. This was one of the entrances to the Tide Abyss. 4 cultivators, 2 men and 2 women, stood outside the Sea of Clouds and looked inside.